Podcast City Network. Hey man, you're listening to the Chris Carnage Show. Hey fans, this is your one and only Chris Carnage, and we are back here for another episode of the Chris Carnage Show, only on Podcast City Network. So to make sure that you can check out the Chris Carnage Show, you have to go to Podcast City Network. So all you have to do is go to podcastcity.net, click on the Chris Carnage logo, and check out all the great content that Chris Carnage has to offer. You can also find Chris Carnage on all my social media platforms, on Facebook at /Chris Carnage Official, on Twitter at Planet Carnage, and on Instagram at The Chris Carnage. So definitely make sure, give me a like, give me a follow, check out all the great stuff that I post. And definitely check it out. It's all a lot of good stuff because Chris Carnage is involved in anything. Doesn't matter if it's sports, wrestling. We're always doing something crazy. Just like tonight, I have a very, very special guest that I'd like to introduce. He is none other than one half of the tag team known as Task Force. He is Dante Marquis Carter, DMC. Welcome to the show.
Chris Carnage, thanks for having me on, man.
Not a problem at all. Thank you for taking the time to come join me for this episode. I definitely have seen a lot of your work, especially recently with a lot of the different promotions and things that you have worked. It's been definitely really awesome to see you work, man. Honestly, it really has.
Great, I appreciate it. And that's what I do. I aim to entertain. So if you're satisfied with it, then I've done my job. So appreciate it. Thank you.
No, definitely. But, a lot of people out there might not know who you are. The indie scene of wrestling can sometimes be a little bit more regional, be a little bit smaller than the big stuff we see with WWE and AEW. So I want to try and dive in a little bit into your backstory, though, and kind of learn more about you and how you're able to come to where you are now. So with you, I know before wrestling, you were involved in some things, including serving some time in the Army, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely, yeah. 8 years from 2006 to 2014.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for your service.
No worries.
Yeah, it's always awesome. I have a lot of military in my family, so, anytime I come across any veteran, it's always a pleasure, and definitely a pleasure. And again, thank you so much for your service. It's not easy to go into the armed forces in any way, shape, or form, and I've seen what it has done to others, so definitely a big undertaking that you took doing that, and we thank you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's an interesting crossover. But surprisingly, there's enough people in the vet community that's in the wrestling community as well. So there's a small network of guys, especially here in Florida, that I test myself with. So it's been a fairly smooth transition, to say the least.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I could definitely understand that. Definitely probably the big transition. But from that transition, you ended up finding yourself in professional wrestling. How did you get into professional wrestling to begin with?
Professional wrestling was always the goal. I think probably when I was, let's say, early teenager, was, I always wanted to go into the schools and learn how to do it. I tried out for the middle school wrestling, and then we did all the grappling and stuff like that, and we didn't get into the stuff I saw on TV, so I got out of that. And so I think it was always the idea that that's what I wanted to do. And then of course, like with 9/11 happening, and then my older brother, who I pretty much just followed in his shadow, he enlisted into the Air Force. Well, he was actually already in the Air Force when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I that diverted my path, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to serve, and did my time, and figured what better time than now, while I'm still in good health, and I'm not completely broken down. The military didn't completely break me, so I can move around and still stay in relatively good shape in doing this. So initially I was just going to be a ref. That was the whole plan going in. I wasn't going to be an active wrestler. So
Hmm.
I traveled the circuit for about a year. Um, Ended up on places like Fest and MLW in their early stages when they first got on national TV and stuff like that. And since they came back the second go around, um, even like some shows out in Nashville, and because of it, got like a WWE tryout. So my refereeing career was pretty, was pretty good. And but of course, the more and more you're around it, more and more you do it, and more you realize that you can hang with these boys. Get the itch to get in the ring. So
Hmm.
I mean, like I said, I'm already in the ring as a ref, but to get in the ring as a competitor. So I made the transition, shifted over after about a year and a half of hanging up on my stripes. I did my last MLW show, my last Fest show, and promptly focused full time on wrestling. And what you see is what you got now because of that. So there we go.
Yeah, that's definitely awesome. And I know a lot of guys kind of take that kind of path. I definitely saw some of your pictures when you were reffing as MLW. I'm not going to lie, you did look pretty good in the stripes, but I think a lot of people prefer
Yeah.
you in the tights.
Yeah, no, it was always the running joke. A lot of guys didn't want me to ref their match because at times I was in better shape or looked bigger than them, and that was a joke, obviously, but
Yeah.
that was always a thing that was going around. It's like, man, you might as well just wrestle because you look good as most of the boys inside.
Yeah, you always wonder, like, when you're in those situations, like, I wonder how many of these people think that maybe I could take one of these guys, like,
I
because
mean,
you're,
look at WWE's referees. Like, I mean, even
oh, yeah.
all of them. Even with Jess and Aja, like they look like they can beat up anybody. So they're long gone are the days of like the little timid ref.
Oh, yeah, very true. When you had,
They'll
like,
beat you
your
up.
little nature boys and whatnot running around that
Hmm.
looked like little pipsqueaks, but yeah, you definitely
Yeah.
are right.
Now
They're definitely getting
they've
beefier.
evolved.
Oh,
Yeah,
for
for sure.
sure. Now, with that though, and your wrestling style, what were some of your biggest inspirations, not only for how you are with your character, but how you are as a wrestler?
Oh man, I would say a good bit of my inspiration comes from my military background.
Hmm.
Um, like a lot of people when they finally find out that, oh, oh, he had a military background, then when they put two and two together with my work, it kind of makes sense, in terms of
Hmm.
how I kind of run my character. He's very militaristic, very strategic, very I try to think of him as more of a game of chess.
Hmm.
It's always try to stay, two or three moves ahead. So while you're focused on countering one, I'm already planning that you're doing this, and I'm already, so many steps ahead of you. And that's the way that what I had to do in my line of work was I always had to stay, one or two steps ahead of the enemy. So I realized that was something that I can transfer over, and having that type of psychology when I approach a match, people are just like, wow, it's a refreshing take. And I think a lot of people get lost into it because it's so different. It's not flashy. I don't do a whole lot of the high flying or the
Hmm.
or the magnificent twists and flips and things like that. But I can provoke. I tend to provoke as much as emotion as anybody that can do any of those moves. So I think it's fairly attributed to that, um, for that being a major influence. Um, but other than that, I would say more of like my in ring style. I guess it really just depends on like what specific aspect of my character that I was building at the time. So
Hmm.
like my in ring, I would say my in ring is very close because I was studying like Chris Jericho and his cruiserweight run in
Oh,
WCW.
yeah.
So the way he moved and the way that he was real slow, but he was still very like it was real slow, slow, slow. But then he'll hit you with the high flashy move that made that move matter,
Hmm.
so much more in the moment. So that was somebody that I studied in terms of in ring. And then in terms of character, I just draw inspiration of of whomever, if I wanted to be, that more methodical, more slow kind of pacing. Um, and when I was drawing kind of inspirations from like Bray Wyatt in his FCW and NXT run, and inspirations from guys like just having that mystique from guys like Vampiro
Mm-hmm.
and there's just so many different inspirations picked in from different guys that's just thrown into my arsenal. And I think that's what's cool because it's like it's not specifically tailored after one person. It's like if you were a fan, you can see a little bit of this guy, you can see a little bit of this guy, a little bit of this guy, a little bit of that guy. So it has a better way of connecting with a broader audience.
Definitely, and I definitely could see that in your wrestling. You definitely bring the energy. You definitely try and tell a great story, and it's something I definitely can appreciate. And I definitely see flashes of Chris Jericho. Definitely see that, but it's definitely very entertaining to watch. But,
Yeah,
but
yeah, Jericho. I mean, he's killing it right now. But I was preaching this, and anybody would tell you this. I was preaching this
mm-hmm.
back in the Lionheart days. Like that was he was always my in terms of like a fan. Like that was my number one dude. Like I was a guy. I always say Sting was the one that got me into the business as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
but Jericho he got me. And it's hard to say because he's still on top of the game right now. So
Oh,
now it still
definitely.
sounds like I'm still kind of like a fanboy. So, but it's like I've always been saying it. As a kid, I've always regarded Jericho as the number one guy, and my that I'm the biggest fan of in professional wrestling. So
Oh,
yeah, I try to mold as much, but I can't do everything Jericho because like I said, he's still in the game right now. He's still killing it. So
yeah, that's
I'll just
true.
be biting off him at that point.
Right. Yeah, and definitely, Jericho has been an inspiration for many. I know even when I was still wrestling before I got put on the shelf, I drew a lot of
Hmm.
inspiration from guys like Jericho and what they were able to do, not only in ring but also on the mic. It was just one of the best at it, honestly, and especially with mic skills. I think I draw a lot from him as well, so I definitely can
Oh,
understand that. But you, sir, are
yeah.
one half of a tag team. You are in a tag
Hmm.
team called Task Force with Mikey Spandex. What can you tell us about your tag team?
Um, Task Force was, oh man, I think this is probably the first time I get to talk about the origin story of Task Force. Um,
That's right, fans, here on the Chris Carnage Show.
yeah, there we go. Task Force, Task Force originally was an idea. I'm a huge, and this also goes back to Jericho because following Jericho's path, I ended up in Japan, and so I started really getting in deep in the New Japan
Mm-hmm.
and the way that they work like stables.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody still had their own identity, but they were still identified with a particular stable. You
Right,
know,
right.
it wasn't like an NWO where everybody was NWO. It was like,
Yeah, right.
you had good guys, you had bad guys. How that worked.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea was to have something like that in Florida because it isn't heard of. So I was thinking of bringing something like that here in Florida where it comprised um, uh, of guys that were just getting out of school that were really good, that had like the potential, had the it factor, but didn't really have like a character or a brand or something to attach themselves to. Like it was going to be something like Task Force was originally just going to be something that I would just give to someone that they can just use. And I wasn't going to take any money. It was going to be their logo. They can do whatever they want with it. They can use it for merch, for moving them, or just be associated with Task Force.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was just the whole thing. Um, it still kind of is the plan right now, but for now, the first person to come along was Mikey, and him and I had a series of matches in Daytona, and we ended up being on a tryout for Evolve in November 2018,
Very
and
nice.
actually no November, sorry, October, no, September, October, something like that. We were in a tryout for Evolve there, and we had a tryout match together there. And then because of our tryout match, we were both put on the show, the WWE Evolve show that night, and that like highlighted our chemistry. So I was like, oh man. So we were toying with the idea of tagging just to see, what it can do. And then we pitched the idea. It was like, well, Evolve was interested in, they were interested in both of us, but they wanted to see more, instead of just bringing just two guys in.
Mm-hmm.
So we went up to New York and pitched them the idea of, okay, hey, look, you're interested in both of us. What about both of us as a tag team? And I was like, okay, that's different. You know, you guys have similar builds, similar look, but nobody's gonna kind of believe you because yeah, you got a good size, but you're undersized. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, well then, we're gonna show you. That was like the challenge. It was like, okay, cool. Then you want more? Okay, we'll show you more. And on the debut night that me and him tagged, we won the Go Wrestle Tag Team Championship in a ridiculous scramble match that's on YouTube. Um, and yeah, and it was just from from 2000, like I said, 2018 when we had that match till December when we just checked. This past December 2019, we amassed over almost about 200, almost about 220 matches
Ooh,
just
talk
within
about
that,
busy.
like between the two of us. Yeah. So yeah, when we told them that, okay, yeah, we'll show you, we did. We hit the we hit it. It was uncommon. I don't think there was a week that we had less than two shows a week. Um, there were some injuries. I had some injuries last year. He had some injuries. There was a few shows here and there. Um, but yeah, we got up there pretty good between the year and a half that we were traveling. Um, but man, it was insane. And then of course, all of this that's happening now was whew, that's
Oh
another
yeah.
story. But anyway,
Yeah, that definitely is a whole other thing,
but
which we'll definitely touch on that in a little bit. But you mentioned some of the
no, for sure.
promotions you've been able to work and been able to actually
Yeah.
run yourself through. I have a small little list here with SWA and Go Wrestle and GCW and like you had mentioned, Evolve. You guys have definitely gotten around, and we have some pictures scrolling right now
Yep.
because obviously we only were able to get you in on audio this time, but that's okay. But we got some great pictures of you with
Yeah.
you guys together with some titles and stuff like that at a multitude of events. What can you tell us about some of these shows you've been able to work recently?
Oh man, just fun. Tremendous atmosphere. Really intimate crowds. A lot of people, they gauge the success of a tag team based on the amount of people that's in the crowd or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And to us, we don't really gauge success of a match and things like that by the number of people. I mean, we gauge by the reaction. It's like if we can get, all right, yeah, there's only 6, 7 people in the audience, but if we can get all 6, 7 of them to stand on their feet at the end of the match, then that's a job well done. So those are the things that we kind of aim for in those intimate settings, like those places, man. We every single one. I mean, we've worked that list expands. That list is a lot longer than those promotions that you named, but those are the ones I would say we dedicated the most time with,
Mm-hmm.
and because we would go back and every show that they had, we made ourselves available for, and we did those and we did that, so yeah, especially down in Platinum down in West Palm Beach, beautiful promotion there, beautifully ran. Their SWA in Georgia, really old school, kind of like we had an old lady get kicked out of there
Oh man,
because she hated us
you
so
gotta tell
much and
that
she was like
story.
threatening. Yeah, yeah. So it was just we weren't the greatest guys when we got there. Actually, no, when we got there, they loved us, and then we really weren't feeling that. It's a 4-hour drive, so we kind of were irritated by every time we went up there. So
Mm-hmm.
they didn't really like us up there, and I forget what started it. I believe there was something at the end of the match, and they didn't like the way that we won the match. So we go into the outside, and this old lady is just, I think she swung at Mikey. I'm
Oh wow.
100% sure. Like I'm 100% sure she swung at him. Like there was something very physically threatening about her that happened to her and him as we were exiting the ring, and she got kicked out. The lady was probably like 60, 70 years old, so that's what makes it even more beautiful.
Oh
But
my gosh.
but yeah, that was a thing that happened up in Georgia. But yeah, so as you can tell, it's very, 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 very fun, very real, very, very real there. So
Mm-hmm.
um, it's great. And
Yeah.
then but yeah, and then of course our home promotion, Go Wrestle in Daytona. I would be the mass without mentioning that promotion. That's the one that gave us the start, and that's when we dedicate our Fridays every Friday. Um, you know, that's that's where we're at. So we mold what Task Force is. We take what's on the show because of everything that we're able to practice and mold on a Friday show, and the way that we're able to interact with the Friday night crowd and that type of energy that we go from a Friday night show, we take it on to a Saturday and Sunday show. So
Mhm.
that's why those matches are pretty lit because it always starts on those Friday shows. It kind of gets us kind of wakes the joints up,
Oh yeah.
loosens you up after a week of not doing anything. So
Oh
and
yeah, it's
then
always those nice
we
stage
go in there and
setters.
kill it. So oh, absolutely. So I would be a mess without mentioning how grateful of an opportunity we've had with working with Go Wrestle.
Yeah,
And then of course, obviously, it's because that was my school. That's where I came from. So
yeah.
I would die if my trainer found out that I'm talking about putting on promotions and I didn't even put on the one that I was born from. So yes, of course.
Oh yeah, and with Go Wrestle, we're starting to have our own little relationship with them as well. One of our owners of the network actually has starting to frequent there because he actually lives in Daytona. So he's actually
Okay.
started to go into more Go Wrestle events. So yeah, hopefully maybe we'll actually get to see you guys there at some point and see you guys in action.
Awesome. Yeah, come down. Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be a lot of fun because that's like I said, that's where we're most comfortable there. So it gets way more entertaining, a lot less stressful. We ain't got to worry about a whole lot.
Hmm.
So it's way more entertaining there. So yep.
Oh, for sure. For sure. But first things first, to even have shows anymore, we got to get past this whole crazy coronavirus pandemic that everybody is dealing with right now. Definitely has taken the world by storm and not in a good way. And the numbers keep raising all the time, and all these dates that they keep setting for when we can return to normal life keep getting pushed back and pushed back. And it's definitely had an impact on professional wrestling. I know it definitely has had an impact on you and your tag partner. What are your thoughts on this overall with this entire pandemic and how it's affecting professional wrestling?
I mean, obviously, my thoughts, my prayers, I always go out to the individuals that are suffering from this terrible,
Oh,
terrible illness,
absolutely, absolutely.
and obvious sentiments and bereavement go to and prayers go out to the bereaved families of those who have lost their lives because of this illness. So I don't want to say anything that's going to make any light of the situation,
Hmm.
without speaking with all due respect to all of them at first. But I think what ended up happening was I think we completely underestimated, we completely played it off, especially here in Florida,
Yes.
um, and that caused it to pretty much grow into something that is a lot more difficult to be controlled. And because of that, we have to make extreme measures, um, like the social distancing and
Hmm.
not being in areas with capacity. Um, and that includes, like sporting events, entertainment events, etc.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, it sucks, but it makes sense. Um, it's it took away my job on the outside. I'm a barber, so
Hmm.
any kind of direct contact jobs are immediately axed. So I'm unable to do that until this clears up 100%. So
Hmm.
um, finding alternative work and things like that right now. But when it comes to professional wrestling, it's a good thing the that the generation now, if you pay attention to what the older generation kind of trained us as we
Hmm.
were coming in, and it was like, or not even trained us, we kind of could have just looked around and seen like what happened to guys that put their all into wrestling, and how you can realize that wrestling a isn't a permanent thing. Like it get at a moment's notice can be taken away from you.
Right.
And I honestly, I physically, financially, everything that's going on in the real world, I'm okay with losing wrestling, but it's definitely more of an emotional loss. It's more of a mental loss. It's 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 hard to to process that there is no direct return on doing something that you dedicated your life to doing for for some people 30, 40, 50 years,
Oh, definitely.
and then, and guys like me who are just starting, who is just, like I said, like last year, doing over, 100, me and Mikey doing 100 matches each. Um, and then all of it coming to a complete halt, you know. WrestleMania week was a culmination of all of that time that we put on that road. Because with it being in Tampa, we were fortunate to have a lot of the promotions that we worked for to be in there. And that week was going to be, I think, that week from that Sunday, the 29th, till this past Saturday, the 3rd, I had a total of, no, we each had a total of 9 matches
Hmm.
scheduled for that week. Um, and those were 9 full payday matches.
Man.
So, it's good that I didn't, and like I said, it sucks that is lost, that is gone, but I didn't, I didn't spend that money, like
Right.
I didn't have it already, I didn't have it yet, so it sucks that it's gone, but it wasn't something that was lost,
Yeah, like they say, you can't miss something that you didn't
physically.
have yet.
Exactly. So I think that's why it's more of an emotional, like it's more of an emotional loss, and it's more of a mental loss more than anything.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that's the hardest part that a lot of wrestlers are going to come to grips with, because I can sit here, I can work out as as often as I want to. I can even live stream. I can build a ring and live stream a match with nobody in it. It's not the same,
Oh yeah.
it just wouldn't be the same as getting that, taking that bump and hearing that pop, and then
Hmm.
and I think every day that, and it's one of those things, like I said, there's no direct return, so it's one of those things where every day that you you wake up and you think you're closer to it coming back, it just stays there. It's like you're walking in a desert, and it's just a mirage on the horizon. Like it's not coming any closer, but you see it. It's right there, but it's not coming any closer, no matter how far you go. So it sucks, but you just got to keep going, man. It'll come back.
Oh yeah.
Something like this will end. This too shall pass, and it won't be permanent. We're not gonna live in fear forever. Um, we're gonna get past this, and then that when that day comes, every single wrestling show is gonna be sold out.
Oh yeah.
Every single is gonna be great. So many hugs, so many tears in the locker room. It's gonna be great. So that's what's keeping me sane right now is picturing that moment, instead of focusing in on when I lost. I'm focusing on what it'll be like when we all return. So I feel like if a lot more people think that way, and go off of that, I think we'll get through this.
Oh, for sure. And I absolutely agree. And like you said, this definitely, without any kind of disrespect to anybody, this is a really crappy situation that everyone
Yeah.
around the world's having to deal with. And I know, at least from a wrestler's perspective, I can definitely sympathize and understand. Obviously, when I left the business, though, it was a little different. I jacked up my back beyond what would be able to actually keep going. So, I have
Hmm.
forced to step away. But, for me, I get that ability, especially with this show, with other promotions that I attend or have done work with, to be able to live vicariously through you guys, being able to see you
Hmm.
guys work those matches, tell those stories, and be able to entertain that crowd. I'm actually getting kind of emotional thinking about it right now.
Yeah.
And just what that meant to me, and I know what it means to you guys, and then just to have it all go away, like you said, like it just came to a halt, and
Hmm.
now we have none of that, and it's saddening. And one point you made, though, I definitely want to touch on, was how you said you could easily set up a ring and try and take bumps and have a match with no crowd. But I want to circle back around to how that's affecting the bigger promotions, where you see WWE and AEW and all these other promotions that were still trying to run shows, and they're doing it with no crowds. And
Hmm.
it for me, I don't know about for you, but I know for me it hurt to kind of watch, because the biggest thing I know anytime I ever entered a wrestling ring was not only to build up that crowd, but to feed off that crowd. And if you don't have that crowd there, it's like a piece of you is not there. You know what I mean? And I just want your thoughts on WWE, specifically with WrestleMania, even still trying to continue on with the show with no crowd.
I mean, when it was 100%, man, I was completely. I woke up this morning and I had to pray on it. I had to think about it. I had to make sure it was right in my heart, and I 100% was completely blown away by WrestleMania this weekend. It exceeded any kind of expectation I had. Now obviously this isn't me just trying to brown nose to a company that I would love to pay my bills for the rest of my life, but this is me saying this, and yeah, you know, you don't get that 80,000 feel, you know, you don't get that 60,000, that 40,000, even a 15 or even a 10K. You know, oh man, it could have just been family and friends. Just a little something. Something would have been better than nothing.
Give me 500 people. We can make this work.
Yeah, you know, but and it sucks we didn't get that. But you got to think, man, those guys, especially that freaking ladder match, those guys put it all out there,
Absolutely.
and there wasn't one person that came through that curtain, and then that went back through that curtain as someone who just wrestled in front of nobody. You know, like that was what I was most impressed with. Like that ladder match, that's the part where I'm looking like they're just doing this. Literally, they're just doing this in their backyard with their friends. Like
pretty much, yeah. I equated it to someone as a bunch of rich people getting together and having a backyard show.
yeah, that's all they're doing. They're just doing this. They're doing this in the safest way as possible. But they're literally just having a backyard wrestling show with their friends, and that part was like, dude, that's what 3/4 of the wrestlers would not be here if it wasn't for stuff like that. 3/4. I mean, maybe a little bit in the older generation that came in the right way, yeah, but the kids now that's coming in the last 10 years, 3/4 of them would not be in because of shows that were taped or being passed around on tapes of, you know, CM Punk and all of those guys,
you're throwing
you know,
me back.
working. You know, who was also the Hardys were running their backyard fed that was being passed around, you know. So yeah, come on,
or
man.
M-Dog 20 Matt Cross.
Stuff. Yes, Matt Cross. Yep, we watched all of that stuff. So it didn't affect me in terms of the fans. It wowed me. It wowed me with like a bunch of rich, like these guys. They were pro wrestlers this weekend. Like they were entertainers for sure, because, you know, even the guys in the segment matches, I call segment matches, but the Boneyard match and the Firefly, like they could have, when the report, I don't know obviously how truthfully not, they control the narrative, but they said that, you know, all of the vocals were improv in the Boneyard match. If so, that was great. That was great. Now, if that report is true, from whatever dirt sheet posted that I saw this morning, that would be awesome, because that just showed like how well that they were just in tune with the moment. But you can still see, like, it wasn't like, okay, we're gonna shoot, cut, shoot, cut, shoot, cut, shoot, cut. Like, it was fluid. Like, you can tell that in the downtime they kept the energy up, so that way when it was time to roll, like, so you can tell they were having fun, they were in a good mood, they were in a good atmosphere. And it looked well. It was very well presented. Even Cena, you know, you can tell that those were real things that he's gone on record and saying that's affected him personally. And for him to project that on a stage like WrestleMania, it took one hell of a professional to do that. He didn't have to take any physical bumps, but he damn sure took some mental ones or some emotional ones having to film that. So, you know, all credit goes to him and everything with that too. And then so it was, like I said, very well between those three matches, the gimmick matches or the segment matches and the ladder match, and even Charlotte and Rhea Ripley.
Oh my gosh,
they were slugging it out, man.
That was
I had to cover up on a few of those shots.
Yeah, for real. They're just taking it.
Oh man, so yeah, it was good. I thoroughly, like I said, I had to make sure what I felt was right, but I confirm that I was impressed. I was impressed.
Yeah, definitely. I have to agree because I went in, obviously with everything going on and no crowd, and we had a couple wrestlers even fall off the card beforehand with Roman Reigns and some guys. But
Uh-huh.
to testament to them though, to be able to go out with no crowd and still put on the performance they did, definitely being consummate professionals. And I was blown away. I honestly was utterly surprised because I really hate to say this because I always try to be the positive side of things, but I
Uh-huh.
really did not have a lot of faith in the show. I felt just with how
Yeah.
everything was unfolding that maybe they should have just postponed Mania, thinking how can you do Mania without a crowd? But honestly,
Absolutely.
everybody went out there and absolutely gave it their all and killed it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very refreshing to see how a lot of that played out. But you had mentioned when it came to the Firefly Funhouse match and, of course, the Boneyard match. I felt both of those were very, very unique also in their own way. And like you said, John
Uh-huh.
Cena facing so much that he dealt with in his career. And that,
Uh-huh.
I got to always say, I was not always the biggest fan of John Cena, but that guy is always a consummate professional, has no problem facing anything he has ever dealt with in his life. So
Oh yeah.
hats off to him.
Oh yeah. Like I said, he took some mental bumps
Oh, yeah.
in that match. You know, I think the finish, all he did was take a mandible claw in the actual wrestling
Yeah.
of the whole damn thing. But
He ain't lying.
he took some. Yeah, he had to go. Hopefully, he's somewhere drinking some mai tais with his feet up or something. Because
Right.
he's because I'm sure that was a tough journey to go down.
Oh, most definitely, especially with
Some of
all
those
the.
I was cringing on, like the Nikki references and all of that. I
Yeah,
was like,
I was
ooh,
surprised. I was like,
ooh.
okay, we're going there. Oh
Yeah,
man. But it still was great to watch, great entertainment, and I
absolutely.
know Vince was very gun ho on trying to make it happen and trying to bring something for
Hmm.
everybody in these hard times. But as we deal with these hard times, we still got to obviously look to the future for us to be able to move past this. So with that in
For
mind,
sure.
what are you doing to keep ready for when this pandemic finally passes?
Staying in shape. I'm actually trying to find a way to get in better shape than when I left because I feel like I owe it to those fans
Mm-hmm.
that they had to wait. So I'm not going to sit there and give them a bullshit performance. So I'm going to do everything that I can to whenever that return is going to be the best form, the best shape, the best physical and mental condition that I can be in. So that's what I'm working on right now. I ain't got nothing else to do. So
Yeah, right. No excuses now.
yeah, really. So between that and spring cleaning, that's about it.
Right.
Um, but yeah, doing some other things like working on some video editing. I got these segments that we're putting out. Just kind of keep our name in the mix and try to keep let everybody know that Task Force is still around. So we're still doing these little promo segments um, that I'm doing. That I'm also dabbling in some video editing, and so I'm getting in and working with that and releasing those onto our Facebook page, and then yeah, toying with some ideas right now. I got a studio set up, so who knows what other kind of content that we can be putting out. Mikey, he's doing his he calls it like his nerd out segments. Right now he's covering a lot of like anime and live action, fighting characters and things like that, and like doing death battles and stuff like that. So it's actually pretty cool. He does those over on his Instagram, Mikey Spandex, and but yeah, so we're still trying to stay relevant and stay entertaining the troops and entertaining the masses, and keeping everybody posted for that day that we get the word that we're back. We're back. So um, that's what we're doing to survive right now.
Very nice, very nice, and that's pretty much what everybody's doing is just doing what they can to survive at this point. I know I've definitely fell behind in my working out, and I actually went and worked out yesterday for the first time probably in 2 weeks, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm extremely sore.
Hey, keep at it, man. Just that's good. That means you're healing. So that's keep at it, man. Just keep. That's how it is. The burn is real. So it lets you know that you're alive.
Oh, definitely, definitely, and I appreciate that. And we're definitely all going to make it through this, and eventually we will have wrestling days again. And I can't wait. I just really I can't wait. But with the big
Oh, for
thing is
sure.
though, through all this time and all these projects and everything at Task Force and you and Mikey Spandex have going on, where can people find you guys?
Well, I'm usually very, very bored and releasing content on 3-hour intervals on Facebook. Other than that, we're on that. Dante Marquis Carter, Mikey Spandex, Task Force has a Facebook page there. You can get us there. Instagram, I'm on there. Inquis We Trust, INQUISWETRUST. That's on Instagram and Twitter, and Mikey Spandex on Instagram and Twitter. Yeah, we don't have anything for Task Force together on that. We got a few matches on the YouTubes. Check those out, especially the one that we just had most recently in January against these two cats. We were fighting for Evolve contracts, and God, that match was a blast. That's my favorite match.
Yeah, I gotta lie. I watched that one. I was very, very entertained.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really good. So, yeah, no, for sure, check our stuff out. Leave some feedback. We're not getting a whole lot of feedback. We'd love to get some feedback, on some things that we can improve upon, or some stuff that people want to see, or anything like that. So any kind of media that they want, we'll be glad to do our best to try to provide it. That's pretty much all we can do. I can sit around and try to figure out how to entertain as much people as possible. So start taking some requests or some shit, something.
Right, definitely. And I know all I want to see is just more. But at the end of the day, I'm a glutton for watching as much wrestling as humanly possible. So I'm that guy. So don't mind me.
Yeah, no, we'll probably just be re-releasing all of these matches that are already available. Just try to refresh everybody. That's saying, I gotta chop them up, make like a highlight reel or something. So yeah, we'll be steady pumping out content. And then, like I said, when that day comes, then we'll be back to like we never left.
Definitely. We can't wait. And definitely thank you so much for joining us. We've really had a great time having you on. And hopefully maybe we can get you and your tag partner on again on one of our shows here on Podcast City Network. Definitely been a great time.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll do that. I got to find what he done. He's all over the place. That's a hard guy to catch. So.
Oh yeah.
I got to give him.
I know that pain.
We got to talk to his assistant. I'm sure he has an assistant. I don't know. It's a hard guy to get a hold of.
Hey, if he's got an assistant, I need one of those because stuff's
he's like
getting hard,
Bruce
man.
Wayne. That guy. That man is a man of mystery. Mikey Spandex, everybody.
I gotta love it.
I'll for sure. That's something that we can do in the near future for sure.
Definitely. Well, again, thank you, DMC, for joining us of Task Force. Make sure that you go check out everything Dante Marquis Carter and Mikey Spandesk of Task Force, on social media and on YouTube. Make sure you go check it out. Thank you again for joining us, and make sure that if you want to check out all things Chris Carnage, that you follow me on my social media platforms on Facebook at /Chris Carnage Official, on Twitter at Planet Carnage, and on Instagram at The Chris Carnage. And of course, you can check out all things Podcast City Network on podcastcity.net, and in their myriad of social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, and on Twitch. So definitely make sure you go check that out. Again, Dante, thank you so much for joining us. And fans out there, this has been episode 7. I'm Chris Carnage, and that's Dante Marquis Carter. Y'all have a great night. Podcast City Network.